Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on the final day of the Career Education College and University Annual Education Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. Yes, it's before 9 a.m. and I can still say it on our final day here. It's a lot of words, but it's been a lot of conversation and a lot of insights with incredible leaders serving career colleges, running career colleges, and serving career college students. It's a critical part of the higher education ecosystem, very heavily regulated, and that's a little bit of a hint into something that we'll talk about today. Always with me by my side for this conference is the one and only. He's Douglas Carlson. He is head of partnerships at Lead Squared. Of course, Lead Squared is the reason that we're here. They paid for us to come, and we sponsored this whole bit. Douglas, thanks for bringing us.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to our guests and kind of rounding it out. And just, for the listeners, give a set. Like, this is a really good podcast group to listen to as a set because it gives a really cross-functional view of everything that is proprietary education. And some of the things that are really, really important are the legislation. So we're going to kind of round it out with that piece as well, and we're looking forward to it.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. But when we create the link with all of these episodes, it is almost like a journey that we took right through each part of the operations of career colleges, the support, the institutions, the support, the technology, the students, the regulatory environment, law. Yeah. I mean, it's been... You're right. That's key insight, Douglas. Thanks for bringing one key insight here today.
I'm trying. If we missed anything, I'd really glad. If we missed anything, one, I'd be impressed. But two, I'd love to any of our listeners to let us know what they would want to hear that we missed.
Yes. And if it's out there, we'd be surprised. But let's round it out. Let's bring in our guest right now. Here he is. He is Billy Clark. He is the president at Delta College of Arts and Technology. Welcome to the EdUp Experience, Billy. How are you?
I am great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Did you know you're going to have walkout music this morning?
I'm so excited to have walkout music. Yeah.
Billy Clark, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Not bad, right? Anyway, tell us first about Delta College of Arts and Technology. Where are you? What do you do? Who do you serve?
Yeah, we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We actually have several campuses all in South Louisiana. We started in 1973, and we've been around in one form or fashion since 1973. Our major focus is allied health and nursing. And last year, between our 4 small campuses that offer the LPN program, we graduated 17.7% of all of the LPNs in the state of Louisiana.
Outstanding.
That's incredible.
It is.
That's a heck of a stat.
Yeah, no kidding.
Especially considering all the burdensome regulatory things we have to deal with.
Sure.
Speaking of which, Billy, what might you be referring to? Can you, I think one of the things we'll talk about today is the 90-10 regulation. And for anybody that is listening, we've talked about it before on this podcast. I think for any of our colleagues in nonprofit higher ed, they just kind of gloss over it because they don't have to deal with it. But I think it's good for everyone to hear what it is and what our career colleges of today have to deal with. So can you give us a quick overview of what does 90-10 even mean, Billy?
So in summary, the 90-10 rule requires only proprietary schools, that's privately owned for-profit institutions, to garner no more than 90% of their tuition revenue from federal funds. Now, federal funds includes Pell Grants, student loans, veterans benefits, Workforce Investment Opportunity Acts, foster grant, Chafee programs, anything the federal government touches is now considered federal funds. And that is, it's a difficult obstacle to overcome when Bill Gates' kids can get student loans.
Right. Anybody can get student loans. It's just how you qualify for those loans that's different, which means now that the 10% has to be cash, essentially.
Pretty much cash or state grants.
But you have, if it's state grants, lucky you. If it's cash, you have to think way outside the box on how you're going to generate some kind of cash business or a cash difference to make up that 10.
That is correct. And that was doable up until this year.
Yeah.
The federal government Department of Education changed the definition and the parameters with which you could generate cash towards tuition. and pretty much shut it all down. I think the next step will be, hey, you can only count towards tuition revenue anything you receive in Title IV, and you have to only have 90% of that.
Right.
I think that's coming next.
Yeah.
We're really close to that
Yeah.
now, but we haven't made it there.
Now, I think the big change too recently is the fact that they moved the veteran benefit from the 10, right? So if you had Chapter 31, Chapter 33 funds, you could count that towards your cash or your 10. And so if you were recruiting veteran students, that would help you meet your 90-10. They moved that below the line, so to speak, so that became part of the 90. So now schools that have been recruiting veterans still will recruit veterans, but it actually makes them have to hoof it to make up that difference.
Yeah, and that we serve maybe 5 to 6%, depending on the campus, of our student body are veterans.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're proud to serve them. We're happy to do so. Matter of fact, they tend to be our better students. They're
Sure.
a little more disciplined. They know what they
Yeah.
want, and they're ready to go. However, you know, I've had the opportunity to have a couple of VA audits
Yep.
after this rule, and so I let the auditors know. I said, you do understand that me serving veterans is now a liability to my institution.
Yeah.
And none of them understand that. Spoke to a chairman of the Armed Services Committee in Washington, told him the same thing, and he had no idea.
Oh, wow.
He said, we got to change that. I said, well, you got
You already
change
just
what's
did
going
change
on
it.
over there.
Yeah. That was the problem. You just changed it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we agree it needs to change.
Yeah.
And this rule started, you know, way back in 1992, and you know, just a summary of what 90-10 has done. Matter of fact, I think it's probably the most immoral rule that's ever come out of the Department of Education. It has done more harm to students than any policy that rogue institution has ever come out with. And when I mean harm, it has increased price, increased student debt more than any other thing they could have done. It eliminated competition. It artificially drove up tuition prices. Our students used to get stipends from federal aid. Our price was lower than maximum federal aid. As was most colleges. It was a competitive environment. Well, now those students, they don't get stipends. Many of them have to go into gap loans.
Sure.
And a gap loan is a private loan that you take out to fund the difference between tuition and what financial aid will cover.
Yeah.
There was no gap loans prior to 90-10.
Right. And give an example here, Billy. I worked for a for-profit proprietary school for 15 years. And I just give this insight for our listeners to understand the strategy that has to go into something like this. We would look at tuition and say, okay, where should we price this program? We think it's $18,000. That's what we think the price is. But wait a minute, we have a 90-10. So in order to meet our 10, we would price it at $20,000. Because we would, in order to the 90 would be the 18,000, and then the 10 would be the 2,000 on top of that. That was the gap, right? And then we would finance, the student would finance that gap with loan servicers. But you know, that was an example. So your tuition should be 18, but it's going up to 20 because you're forced to do 90-10. And so on and so on and so on. So that's how it can drive up prices, because schools would overprice their degrees to make up for that 10. If they did anything else, then they were really hurting margin. They can't invest in their programs and so on and so on. Or we had massage therapy and aesthetics, and so we had clinics. Mm-hmm. And you know, people would come in and get a massage, and our students would give them a massage, and we would charge, $25, and the salon down the road would charge $55, so our students would get it, and that was the cash business. But it made us have to do both of those things in order to just be able to operate.
Yeah. We took a little bit different approach, but that was what most schools were forced to do. But our approach is iffy.
Yeah.
It depends on students being able to take advantage of it and seeing the advantage of it. So, in federal student loans, there's two types of loans. There's a subsidized loan where the federal government pays interest on that loan while you're in school.
Yep.
So it's basically a no interest loan while you're in school.
Yep.
However, there's a second loan program called the unsubsidized loan program. And that program is just like a bank loan. As soon as you get money dispersed for your tuition, you start paying interest. Most students don't even know that, but it does
accruing
happen.
it, not paying. Yeah, you're accruing it, not paying it.
That's right. You have the option to pay it if you want to, but I can't
but
say
you're
I've
in
had
school,
a student do that.
You're getting your degree. You're not paying it off. Yeah.
So one of the things we did is that we just created an institutional payment plan, no interest, and So whatever you would normally have to get with the unsub loan,
Yeah.
we would give you a no-interest payment plan. And that allowed us to collect cash and keep our tuition affordable.
Smart.
Without sticking so much debt onto the student. We did have to plan for, default rates.
Sure, I was about to say,
internal payment
you now
plans.
became a bank, yeah.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of truth in lending, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
consumer protection laws around that kind of stuff. So when you take something like that on, you're taking on even more work. So you're taking on more work to do the more work from the regulation. I mean, and it really is that way for career colleges. I was telling Douglas, I said, you have to really, really want to run a career college. You have to be really passionate, because we make it really hard for operators and presidents to operate these institutions.
or a little bit not right. I think I fall on the not right side, yeah. But that's all I know, man. I'm a second generation guy. Started at 10 years old, and we do it well. Matter of fact, what really resonated with our state guys is that the students we serve. So, and I think this is true for a lot of proprietary schools, but in Louisiana, 70% of the students that attend proprietary schools have attended another form of post-secondary education before they come to us. And I get a chance to talk to them. I ask them the question. So what happened? Why are you here as opposed to there? And so, well, it didn't work out. I couldn't do the grades.
Structure
all
was
these
wrong.
prerequisites.
Yeah.
I couldn't even figure out how to register a second time.
Yeah,
sure.
But not only do we take those students, we graduate them at a much higher rate than do our public counterparts.
Well, and the other really important step as well is you employ them.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge piece of it. And certainly I want to make sure we're getting all the kind of the 90-10 conversation, because it's so important. But I'm also curious a little bit to hear about what you're seeing in the space as far as being able to place students. You've been in the industry a long time. You've seen a lot of things. My impression is it's gone from it was a little bit harder to place students. Sometimes you had to really go out and hustle a bit, to now there's so much demand. Folks are pulling students out of school almost. So are you seeing that as well in your programs?
We are. So our nursing program, at least half of it is clinical experience.
Yep.
So they go through a dozen sites before they graduate.
Sure.
And so they're shopping and the sites are shopping. So many of them have job opportunities before they ever even take their licensure exam. And on the allied health side, every program we has an externship.
Yeah.
So we're going to throw you out there for 6 weeks at the end of your program to number one, prove that you can do it.
Sure.
Prove to yourself you can do it. Number two, we look for sites that are hiring.
Yep.
Just like you said. And number three, if they don't hire, you've got a good reference.
Yeah.
Well, most of them are getting hired now on their external side.
And the other piece as well, and I think the allied health space is obviously different than the skilled trade space, but it's like, and those are two big areas in proprietary education. I think what we're seeing on the skilled trade space is that it's kind of gone from this, like, oh no, you go to the 4-year college, trades are a secondary piece. Now trades are a little bit more cool. Like, we've even heard it referred to as sexy, which is really fun.
We have, yes, by the Congresswoman, in fact.
Indeed, yeah, that was really fun. And I think there's a similar dynamic, but maybe a little bit different messaging with the healthcare space. So, for instance, healthcare has always been an important space, but with COVID, people really looked at it as like, wow, these are people that are really risking their lives and putting themselves on the line, and a little bit more of the hero commentary. Is that still coming through? Are people excited about those roles? Because we just desperately need them. So I guess after saying all that, my actual question is, what is the perception of students about the degrees, and how has maybe that changed over the kind of 4 or 5 years?
So COVID shut it down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were scared to get into healthcare, as you said.
Sure.
It's coming back. People are realizing that, diseases are always going to be around.
Yep.
Always have them. And enrollment is starting to come back.
Good.
That's one of the things, as you know, created the ultra demand that we have today.
Yeah.
Right? You had a lot of professionals, nurses, whatever, forced out of the profession due to their age, their refusal to get the jab,
Yep.
and whatever else. So even if you lost 10% of that workforce, it was already short.
Yeah.
And so now there's a huge gap and a need, and we're doing our best to fill it. Louisiana's done some great things to make us able to do that. So it's not often we get to say we're pretty proud of Louisiana, because we're so happy Mississippi exists. It makes us 49th and everything.
Yes.
But I'm really proud of what our state is
That's
doing
right.
right
Well,
now to encourage those professions.
Well, I'd love to hear you kind of talk more about that then, because obviously there's a lot of good work that happens in state houses, good work that happens kind of at the state level. Would love to hear more about what's going on in Louisiana specifically.
So our legislators got together and they looked at the targeted professions that we needed.
Yeah.
And so they put a program together to really encourage folks to get into 2-year and less training for the 5 most needed professions or industries like construction, the trades, healthcare, and so it's a good program. I don't want to say too much because then I'll have the big boys coming in. I don't want them coming in.
That's fair. Well, it's I think a little tongue in cheek. Not everyone can go to LSU, but everyone should be a fan.
There you go.
Maybe, I guess. We'll leave it there.
Hey, that's my SEC team.
What else do you want to say about 9010, about Delta College of Arts and Technology?
So really about 9010, it needs to go away. It is one of the, I'm going to say it again, it's one of the greatest evils ever perpetrated on students that attend any college, but especially proprietary colleges. However, if 9010 goes away without any accountability metrics, it's going to be what it was back when they
swing
wanted.
the other way.
Yeah, and so that can't happen. So I'm all about accountability. I'm probably somebody that's going to get shot in here because I said, I'm all for gainful employment. Not the one we have right now. But there has to be some accountability metrics. As a matter of fact, all students need to know before they go to school. They need to know how long it's going to take me to graduate from this program.
Yeah.
How much will it cost me to graduate from this program? That's not just tuition, books, supplies, everything. What are my chances of graduating from this program? How many schools do you know that have a 12% graduation rate? I know a couple in my state.
Yeah.
They need to know, once I complete this program, what are my chances of getting a job in this profession? And of course, what all of us are interested in as career colleges, what are you going to earn when you get out?
Yeah.
They need to know that. That ought to be standard fare before you ever sign the dotted line to register for your first class.
Yeah.
I think that's for any program. That should be for any program, any school, any program.
That's why it keeps getting shot down. Bill Cassidy does this every session. He'll put in this bill that's just about like that. And, and the powers to be go, no, that would mean like my history bachelor's degree has to disclose plate. No, we're not doing that.
Sure. Hopefully the industry moves that way, and because I think the consumer is demanding it. It doesn't matter what the type of institution is. The consumer is very smart. The student, the families are getting smarter about what they spend. They're getting smarter about debt. They want to know what the outcomes are going to be, and they measure those statistics in their choice in their selection process. And the sooner we get on board with that, the easier it is to recruit students. And we make it hard. We make it hard because a student comes and they go, well, I don't get this. How many graduates are, how long is it going to take me? Let me go look at this other school instead. And that's just how consumers work. We're Amazon bred and born, a lot of students. We are moving quick through screens and choices.
Yeah. And so they do need that. And one of the cool things is, not many people know it. You guys probably know this. You probably visited the College Scorecard website.
Of course.
Well, it's free to the public. I can't tell you how many of my elected officials have said, how did you get this data that we've been asking for years? So you got a computer, watch this.
It's been there for years.
There it is. There it is.
Yep.
And so when they see that, and then again, they see what we do as a career school, it's like, wow, we want more of you guys.
Yeah. Well, and you look at real graduation rates, and you have to kind of compare apples to apples in a lot of ways. You look at a community college versus a proprietary college. The graduation rates at a proprietary college are significantly better, and they're usually not measured on a 4 to 6 year basis.
Right.
Anything else you want to say, Billy, about the Delta College of Arts and Technology?
We're good at what we do. We're not all things to all people, but we're everything to the students that come to us.
Yeah.
And
good way to put it.
We're good at what we do. Not going to be a community college. It's not my ball game.
Yeah.
But we're going to be career training forever, and we're going to do that well.
There you have it, everybody. Another amazing episode of the EdUp Experience podcast, sponsored by Lead Squared, our amazing partner here to bring us here with my guest co-host. He's Douglas Carlson, head of partnerships at Lead Squared, and this is his final foray into podcasting this trip. Douglas, what is your final thoughts here after almost 20 episodes, I think?
This was an this conversation was wonderful. So, Billy, thank you for that. And I think it also really illustrated and helped round out for me that how dynamic this space is, and most important, we've talked to some Canadians, so we're talking some hockey analogies here. It's like where the puck is going. The puck is going to where the consumer's driving it, and for whatever part of the space you sit in, whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, 4-year, 2-year, community college, healthcare, trades, etc. All of it is going where the student is driving it, and the student is asking for exactly the things that Billy was just talking about.
Yep.
They want to know how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take me, what are my opportunities, what is that initial job opportunity looking like. And I think we sort of mentioned it earlier as well. It doesn't matter, if you go to Harvard and you want to go be an investment banker, that's it's a high-end career track, but that's not any different than going to a career school that you're looking to get a job in a specific thing. Those are actually the same concepts, different delivery methods, obviously. But I love that consumers are being more and more informed, and I actually think that just gives proprietary education a lot of tailwinds that are really important to hopefully actually address some of these things that just structurally don't make sense. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Well said, Douglas. And thank you to our amazing guest who listened to you soapbox, because you did a great job doing it. He's Billy Clark. I don't think I gave him this music on the way in, but he's getting it on the way out. He's president of Delta College of Arts and Technology. Billy, it's been an honor having you here. Thank you for coming and giving us some insight.
Hey, man, thank you for the opportunity. I always like to tell our story. So, and there's a lot of things that we can do to make it better. I often say, if I was king for a day, this is what I would do. But nobody's taking me up on it yet.
Maybe we will. Everybody contact Billy Clark for the magic wand.
That's right. I don't want to run for office. Make me king. I'll do that.
Yeah, fair enough. And this is a final sign-off here. Brought to you, the EdUp Experience podcast brought to you by our amazing friends at Lead Squared at the Career Education College and University Annual Education Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.